This is Conversations on Careers and Professional Life, a podcast from the Foster School of Business, MBA Career Management Office. I'm your host, Gregory Heller. On each episode, I talk with guests from faculty and staff to students, alumni, and business leaders about the skills and strategies that can help you design a professional career that you're happy with. This episode features a conversation with Portia Obeng about LinkedIn. We focus on the things any job seeker can do to improve their LinkedIn profile, from headline and headshots to your about section and recommendations. I hope you'll enjoy this conversation on careers and professional life with Portia Obeng. My guest today is Portia Obeng. She's a social media strategist, and she has over 10 years experience in social media strategy and content management. She likes to say that she started before snaps were chatted and Instagram had stories and ticks were talked. Her specialties include Instagram and LinkedIn. Interestingly, Portia and I both really came into the social media space, I think, right as it was growing up there, right around the Great Recession, 2009 to 2013. So I think we probably have a lot of interesting similar battle stories to tell about our experience working with clients. But today we're going to be talking about LinkedIn. I first met and discovered Portia through the Creative Mornings virtual field trip series, where she gave an amazing presentation called the LinkedIn Glow Up. And I was just really impressed with her approach to helping people upgrade their LinkedIn presences. And I know that many of my listeners, MBA students or those that considering an MBA, are thinking about how they show up online. And I thought it'd be great to bring Portia on as a complement almost to my recent episode with the author of Linked, one of the authors of Linked, Jeremy Schiefling, where we talked about using LinkedIn to advance your career. Here, we're going to talk maybe a little bit more specifically about how to develop a great profile and a great presence on LinkedIn. So I'd like to welcome Portia Obeng to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. That was a fantastic introduction, and thank you for getting my last name correct. I appreciate that.
I'm glad I did.
Yes, thank you.
So as I said in that introduction, the reason that I wanted to have you on the show is because of the way that you approach, and I thought it was a really fun way that you approached upgrading a LinkedIn profile, for everything from banner headline to photograph to your sort of tagline headline and about section. And I think that one of the things that's really interesting about the work that you do and the consulting work that you do or coaching work that you do with individuals is the way that you focus on helping women show up on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So what I'd love to start with is for you to tell us just a little bit about your approach to working with clients on LinkedIn and how you got so involved with LinkedIn in particular.
Man, that's a fantastic question. The first go around that I started working with LinkedIn was because I was laid off of one of my jobs, one of my first social media jobs back in the day, when they thought that they didn't really see a need for social media anymore. And I was working with a career counselor at the school where I graduated from. And she was like, your resume looks good, but have you ever thought about using LinkedIn? And I was like, nobody uses that. Why would I do that? And so she helped me really revamp my LinkedIn profile. And I started connecting with people who were working at organizations that interested me. And that's how I got my next job, is somebody who I connected with on LinkedIn remembered me. And they were like, oh, we have a position open. We want you to apply. But then, of course, because I was in my career, I wasn't using LinkedIn as much. But then when I was looking to just change up the services in my business, I started using LinkedIn more in probably late 2019, early 2020. And, with the pandemic, LinkedIn saw a huge increase in the number of people who are on the platform and who were creating content. So it was just a great time for me to get back on the platform and then start helping people, particularly women, with their LinkedIn profiles.
And do you have a focus, a sort of an industry focus with the clients you work with? I know we met through Creative Mornings, so it was a lot of creatives.
Yeah, so I don't actually have an industry focus. Most of the women that I work with are probably at manager or above level. They're looking to go to the next step in their career, or they are coaches and consultants themselves. So small business owners. So those are most of the people that I work with. But industries, I mean, anybody from tech, yeah, to the creative industry, scientists. I've worked with all different types of people.
And I've heard you say that upgrading your LinkedIn profile and leveraging LinkedIn is not just for someone who is like looking to leave the job or the organization they're in. Could you talk a little bit more about how someone who's really happy in their job or happier in their organization could and should use LinkedIn?
Yes, that's one of the things that companies I think should heavily invest in is trying to help their employees really level up on LinkedIn because LinkedIn has the data. What's so interesting about LinkedIn is that they have all these reports in this data that they keep on the platform that I don't think a lot of people access, but they have data that shows that employees have a network that is 10 times larger than a company's LinkedIn company page. And also, as we know, people trust people more than they would a faceless company. So what happens is that when you have engaged employees on LinkedIn and they're sharing information about your company, they're sharing how much they like it, how much they enjoy it. That is the easiest way for you to do recruitment for your company. And it's likely that the people, even LinkedIn reported this themselves, that the people who are recruited by their friends, their family members, they're more likely to stay at the company longer. So a company would be saving a lot more money in the long run if they just paid for somebody to come in and help all their employees use LinkedIn. They're your biggest cheerleaders, they're your biggest champions, and your biggest advocates. So they should really work on investing more in LinkedIn.
So sort of like a social recruiting kind of is sort of what you're saying.
Yeah, I like to call them LinkedIn influencers. You might as well just start a program in your company.
Let's talk about some of the ways. Like, let's say that I want to be, an influencer within my company and within the sphere that my company is trying to, attract additional talent. What are some of the what are some of the practices that you recommend people engage in?
Oh, yes. I found that with a lot of my clients, they're very scared of posting content on LinkedIn, which I completely understand. I tell people content creation is not for the faint of heart. It is not the easiest thing to do. So you can get started by just making comments on other people's posts who are in your industry. And now when you're making comments, you're not going to just be like, oh, wow, this is great. No. You got to make a comment that demonstrates your knowledge of the industry. So, for example, I'm connected with a lot of people who are career coaches, people who work in career services, and they'll post information like, here is what you should put on your resume. So, stop talking about the task that you're doing and talk about the results that you're delivering, right? So,
Yes. I want one of your memes to like if this was a video, I'd have like
oh, yeah, yeah.
it'd be like
The memes that
cheerleader
I put.
meme or something because we say that all the time.
Yeah. One of the memes I put on LinkedIn, I'm known for those things. But yeah,
Yeah.
so if somebody if somebody made a post on LinkedIn about, make sure you talk about the results that you deliver, instead of me commenting and saying, oh, wow, this is great, I would comment and say, thank you so much for sharing this information. I found that a lot of times people are scared of talking about the results that they deliver because they feel like it's bragging, but you're really doing yourself a disservice. You should make sure that you talk about your results. So like that's a better comment for you to make than to just be like, oh, wow, this is great. Just start making the comments. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Just do something. You got to start from somewhere and then you'll learn along the way.
Yeah, dip your toe in the water.
Yes, please.
Okay, so let's say I've been commenting on other people's posts in my network and I've been doing good quality comments that actually
Mhm.
add and advance the conversation. What would be the next thing?
Oh, the next thing is you can start dabbling in. Some people find it to be easier to write LinkedIn articles, right? So you can start dabbling in LinkedIn articles. Then you can also make sure you're commenting on your company's page, so the company that you work for, the LinkedIn post that they're doing. And then you're eventually going to graduate to making your own content. And there are, of course, levels to making content on LinkedIn. You can post graphics. You can use Canva to make some quote graphics, which people love those on
It's
LinkedIn.
like catnip. I'm getting addicted to looking at my my insights, my engagement numbers when I
Mhm.
post about the podcast, and I see how many impressions I get when there's an image versus when it's just text and a link.
Exactly, exactly. So you can start with just like one simple sentence and a great image, and you'll most likely get more engagement. So gradually you're going to just work your way up to making content. But the great thing about LinkedIn, unlike some of these other platforms, you do not have to be a content machine. You don't have to be posting every single day. If you want to, you can start off with twice a week and then go from there.
Great. I know one of the things that I often will post when I'm not posting about my podcast, of course, is I'll see an interesting article that I think would be applicable to my audience, students that I work with in the MBA program, and I'll highlight one particular insight from that article, and I'll
That's
put that up
perfect.
there. And yeah,
Yes.
and people like it. And, I think of myself not only as a content creator in terms of the podcast, but as a curator. I'm out there reading articles. I'm seeing what other people are posting, and I can amplify and direct that at the people who I know are paying attention to, hopefully paying attention to my feed on LinkedIn.
Yes, that is a fantastic other way to get some great content because we read so many articles, and for you to be able to be like, okay, well, this is the one, like the major thing I took away from the article that helps it somebody say, okay, I may be interested in reading the rest of that article. So they're going to take a look at that. And then also, I tell people, if you want, you can set up a Google News alert so that articles that are related to the topic that you're interested in, you get those in your inbox and you just go and share them on LinkedIn. So that's a great tip.
Yeah. And now there's also the use of hashtags that you can follow on LinkedIn. So you almost don't even have to do it on a Google News alert. You can
That's
choose
true.
hashtags that you want to follow, and then you'll see more of that content. You can filter content in your news feed essentially by those hashtags, and then figure out what you want to amplify to the people who are in your network.
Yes, that is also a fantastic tip. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's back up a second here, right? We're already on LinkedIn. We've got our profile. We're inclined to do this content creation, maybe, or start commenting a little bit. What about the person who is really, they've had a LinkedIn profile for, let's say, 1 to 12 years, right? But it really just has, their name, an old picture that maybe they cropped out of their college yearbook or whatever,
Yes.
and, an old resume put into bullets under their experience. What would you say to a person like that? How should they think about the time they spend on their profile? Where should they start? And what are some resources you'd point them to?
Oh, yes. The number one thing is to update your photo. That is the easiest way for you to get engagement and visibility on LinkedIn. So, the way LinkedIn works is all about getting visibility, and there are various parts of your profile that you can update that will help increase your visibility. LinkedIn did a study. They say just having a profile photo will get you viewed 21 more times than somebody who does not have a profile photo. But something that people also don't realize is that in your settings section of your LinkedIn profile, you can set your photo to only be seen by people you're connected with, which is very unhelpful. So you want to make sure that you are visible to anybody on the platform and people who are doing searches online. So update your profile photo. It's very easy these days. The kids are very good at taking photos. If you have any kids in your family, your nieces, your nephews, cousins, whatever it may be, they can set up a photo shoot for you. You can take one yourself. You can ask a friend to help you, a family member to help you. Or I like to recommend people book yourself a photo shoot, like do something nice for yourself. You can do a shoot, which is two T's on the end. You can book an on-demand photographer. You can do an Airbnb experience within your city and set up a photo shoot that way. Just make sure you get yourself a profile photo. That's first and foremost. And
Are
that
there
should be,
tips
oh, go ahead.
on what the photo should look like? I always say to
Yes.
people like, well, yes, it should be new, it should be current, right? You shouldn't be obviously cropping someone else out of it. It shouldn't be.
Yes.
You should be dressed for the kind of position that you're looking for, the industry that you want to work in. But are there other tips that you give on what that photo should look like?
Yes, you want to make sure that at least 80% of the photo is actually your face. That's also going to help increase your visibility. And then I tell people, you can show off a little bit of your personality in your photo, especially because of the way that, industries are changing and the economy is changing and the job market is changing, a lot of people, especially the Gen Zers, are, showing up fully as themselves in a lot of these job roles. So people think, oh, I have to be wearing, a suit and a tie. Not really. You can come with your personality. Me, I'm known for my bold lipstick colors. So I have a pretty bold lipstick color in my LinkedIn profile photo. So yeah, you just want to make sure that at least 80% of your face is being seen in that photo.
Some other tips: natural lighting is always better if you can get outside, not
Yes.
direct sun, but natural light. And
Yes.
I tell people portrait mode on the iPhone. If you got someone who can hold it for you, get a
Exactly.
good smile with your eyes and your
Yeah.
mouth, and get some good lighting there. And maybe do that little portrait mode to get the bokeh, the blurred background, so it looks a little bit stylish. It's a great
Oh
way.
yeah.
And I'll just say, for students listening to this at the Foster School, we set up a photo shoot with a professional photographer when they come to campus, so everyone gets an opportunity to get one of those photos.
That is something that I wish I had taken advantage of more when I was an undergrad, or even when I went to some conferences. I would be like, I don't need these photos, but the more photos you have, the better.
Back in I think it was 2010, I was a sponsor at a conference, and what we did, instead of like giving out like a whole bunch of swag that nobody wanted, is we set up a photo shoot booth. We had a
Yes.
seamless backdrop, we had the lighting,
That's
and we did
perfect.
social media
Oh,
headshots
that's
for
perfect.
people.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes.
And then, we didn't even put any of our branding on it, but people had great photos that they could use as their little Twitter photo or their LinkedIn photo. So it is a great opportunity. And I think you have some great recommendations. I will put those in the show notes. I'll refer to
Excellent.
Shot and Airbnb experiences for photo shoots as well
Yes.
for folks who are listening. So you don't have to pull the car over and find a pencil to jot that all down, right? If you're even commuting, I mean, we're recording this in July of 2022, so a lot of people still working from home.
That's true.
Okay, so we got a photo, right?
Yes.
What's the next thing? It's going to be headline, I'm sure, right? What are your tips
Yes.
for headline?
Yes. You want to make sure that you have a headline that speaks to the work that you're doing, not just your job title, because you're way more than just a job title. Go ahead.
So I was just going to ask, and for people who are looking to maybe pivot or change the kind of work that they're doing, what would you say?
Yes, you can speak to those future roles that you're interested in, because it's more likely than not that you have transferable skills. People really sleep on the transferable skills. But I just wanted to say where the headline section is on your LinkedIn profile. So right when you go on your LinkedIn profile, you have your photo, and then where most people just leave their job title, their current or most recent job title, that is your headline.
Yeah,
And the way
because it
LinkedIn
auto
works,
populates. It auto
yes,
populates your job title, so you can then change
yes.
that.
Yes, yes, and you should change it for sure. And the way LinkedIn works is that it's a keyword driven platform, meaning that people are searching for things using specific keywords as they pertain to your industry. So you want to make sure that you have enough keywords from your industry in your headline, and then also your about section, particularly your about section, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But with your headline, yes, if you're looking to pivot into a new role, make sure you get on those transferable skills. People forget how many transferable skills are just easily used across different industries. So making sure you use those keywords in your headline. So for me, I'm in the digital space. So of course I'm going to use words like social media, digital marketing, social strategy. So if you're in finance, you're going to use those words in finance. Consulting, you're going to use those words. You're going to speak to what you do in your industry. And I also like to tell people, you can use a value proposition statement that takes you up a couple notches. So for example, if you are a finance consultant and your sweet spot is working with healthcare industry, so you could put in your headline, finance, healthcare, consulting. I am a finance aficionado who loves working with small healthcare companies in the Midwest, something like that, right? Like you have a headline that really speaks to what you do and not just your job title.
Right. So that could be, well, to riff on that a little bit, strategy consultant specializing in bringing clean tech ideas to market with cutting edge
Perfect.
startups.
Yes, perfect. We saved them so much time.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
just help them.
So, and you're kind of space limited on that.
Correct.
260 characters, is it?
Now it's 220 characters
220 characters.
that you're limited to, but that's more than enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we've got a great headline.
Yeah.
And now the white box that says like about me. What do
Yes.
we put in? I mean, people are like, oh, do I write it in should this be like really formal in the third person? Should it be in the first person? What do I talk about? What advice do you
Yes.
give?
Those are great questions. Yes. So the about section, this is where you really want to put in those keywords from your industry. And you want to speak in the first person, like you were telling anybody about the work that you do. Say you were in an interview. I tell people all the time, what you really want to focus on is what you do, how you do it, and why you're so good at it. And this is where I work. As I mentioned, I work mostly with women. This is where they get stuck very often because they feel like if they're talking about what they do and how they do it and why they're so good at it, that they're bragging. But I tell people all the time, it's not bragging if you're literally just telling people, this is what I do and this is how I can help your company. You want to make it very easy for people to understand how you can solve their problems so they can give you the money that you deserve to help them solve their problems. So you're going to talk about very specifically what you do in terms of, what are if there's any sales that you have, if there's any outcomes, any increase in percentages month over month, any number of views you have, any type of any campaigns you're working on, if you've saved money, if you've made money, if you've reduced cost, anything like that, that's going to go on your about section. You're going to say, on any given day, you can find me doing X, Y, and Z. That's when you're going to put in the keywords. So again, if you're in finance, on any given day, you're going to find me working in X, Y, and Z softwares. You can be very specific about the different softwares that you're using. And then you're going to talk about, and here are the results that I deliver. I saved $2 million by increasing the efficiency of a system that was lagging, things like that. And then you tell people why you're so good at it. I'm great at this job because I've studied, this for X amount of years, or I'm great at this job because I do continuing education. I have these certifications, whatever it may be. You can't give people enough information, but you also do have a character limit here. So you get 2,600 characters with spaces.
All right. That's plenty, though. That's plenty. I
Yes.
usually, I think I tell people 300 words is a lot. Like when I talk about cover letters, I'm like, just keep it under 300, 350
Yes.
tops. And I think
Yes.
it's pretty similar here because you sort of have two audiences, though, because you're talking about keywords. That's because one audience is search. And then you have a secondary audience, which is once you've been found, the person who's actually going to read it. And
Correct.
you don't want some big, long block of text that it's going to make their eyes glaze over. You want it to be
Correct.
short, punchy. And this is where you got to kind of put on that content strategist hat. This isn't a 5-paragraph essay. These are bullet points, right? They're like short and punchy.
Yes, correct. Yes, and then making sure you use white space, and then if you're somebody like me who likes to use emojis to just like break up some of the content, that's also an option as well.
Great. Great. Okay, so those are, we covered picture, we covered headline, we covered description. I think that's all pretty obvious to people. There's one thing that you recommend, and you have a little video on it as well, and you talk about, a tool that you can use for it that I think a lot of people overlook, and that's your headline image. So or
Oh yeah,
header
yeah,
image, the banner
yeah,
image.
yeah,
So
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about that. What's your approach to banner images? And, to go from like the basic blue that's the default,
Yeah.
how do you help people think about what they should put up there?
Yeah. So a lot of the times when I'm working with people who are in careers, so most of my clients are either, like I said, women who are in their careers and looking to go up to the next level, or coaches or consultants themselves. So I usually take a different approach with both of them. But if you're in your career looking to go to the next level, or looking to get your first job, whatever it may be, your cover image is your billboard. So it is free advertisement to let people know what you do before they even really scroll down to the bulk of your profile. And I always tell people you can use Canva. So canva.com, they have LinkedIn banner templates. So when you hear somebody say a LinkedIn banner, a LinkedIn cover photo, a LinkedIn background photo, they're all talking about the same thing. It's just that on Canva, they are called LinkedIn banner templates. And they have so many templates that you can use. At the bare minimum, make sure you include your name and the title role that you have. at the bare minimum. So if you are a software engineer, so, Portia Obeng, software engineer, and if you take it to the next level, you would include that wonderful value proposition statement on the cover image as well. So I'm a software engineer who specializes in making startups shine whenever they release a new product. Something like that you would put in your cover banner. But just make sure when you're doing your LinkedIn banner or cover photo that you test it out on your laptop version and then also the mobile version, because it shows up a little different on the mobile version.
Good tip. Good tip. Because a lot of people are looking at mobile. They're getting the update on their phone, or they're getting a suggestion, or you reached out to them. You've reached out to someone to connect, and they see that request or they see that message and they click on it to see who you are. And they might be doing that while they're in the line at the grocery store or on the bus or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to admit to all my listeners, that's one I've been putting off. I have like a Seattle skyline image that I took. It shows like, this is where I am. I'm Seattle, but I've been putting off, putting that value proposition up there. But I think you motivated me. So by the time I'll make a commitment here. By the time this episode lands, I will have updated my banner image on LinkedIn.
Okay, excellent. The people will love it.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
So we've covered some great basics. I think this is fantastic. For folks who want to go deeper, who feel like they need more help, just talk a little bit more about the way that you work with your clients.
Oh, yes. So usually people come to me. I found that the thing about LinkedIn is it's not a very intuitive platform to use. I feel like of all the social media platforms, it's a bit confusing. And I think LinkedIn does a pretty poor job of letting people know how to use their platforms. I live in Washington, D.C., and as big as, now they call themselves Meta, as big as Meta is, as big as Instagram is, they still do advertising all over D.C. And I'm like, do y'all not have enough, people using this platform already? And I wish that LinkedIn would do the same thing of just telling people how to navigate the platform. So when people come to me, I offer 90-minute coaching sessions where I give them some homework. And then together we complete their headline, their about section, their experience section, which is like, that's fine for us to do. But a lot of the times I find that they really are having trouble navigating the platform. So because I've been using LinkedIn for so long, for me, I understand what a first connection is, a first degree connection, a second-degree connection, and a third-degree connection. But I just spoke with somebody the other day. She was like, what does that first mean, like next to my name? And I was like, I should really spend more time telling people how to navigate the platform. So yes, I can help you, level up in terms of your headline, your about section, your experience section, and then we can work on a LinkedIn cover photo together. But I do like to spend a little bit of time helping people understand how the platform works. Like, what are you looking at when you log on to LinkedIn? What does your home screen look like? Like you mentioned, you can follow hashtags. Like, where do you find to follow these hashtags?
Yeah, that was not intuitive. When I heard about it, I had to dig to figure it out.
Exactly. Yep. Yes, that's one that's very hidden that I found to be very helpful. Like you mentioned, you can follow specific topics and find articles, and also the thought leaders in the industries who are using these specific hashtags. And then also, like, there's newsletters on LinkedIn that are another way to gather information. It's not intuitive how to really subscribe to those either. It's sometimes not even intuitive on how to connect with people, since now LinkedIn has two different modes that your profile can be in. So you can have a regular profile on LinkedIn, or you can have something called creator mode, which the automatic thing that LinkedIn prompts you to do is to follow this person, but you can actually connect with that person. It just takes one more step. So I do like to show people how to navigate the platform as well when I'm working with them.
We've covered some amazing ground here, and I feel like we've still only scratched the surface of LinkedIn. I have another episode with Jeremy Schiefling, one of the authors of Linked, and he worked at LinkedIn years ago and is a prolific trainer on how to use LinkedIn. And the book Linked, I feel like, is that missing manual where it really goes into a lot of extra detail, and especially about how to job search on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So that's a great episode for listeners to check out. I'll link to it in the show notes, of course. Okay, that was really bad. And I will, of course, link to your website, which is
Thank you.
portiaobeng.com,
Thank you.
and link to you on LinkedIn so people can follow you in creator mode or can
Yes.
reach out to connect to you if they want to learn more and check
Yes.
out your services. This was really great. I want to ask, I'm going to think maybe two more questions.
Yes. Thank you.
So we're on a podcast here. Are there podcasts that you listen to that you think are helpful for people who are job searching or trying to leverage social media to build their personal brand or make changes in their career?
I don't listen to a lot of career podcasts. There used to be one that was so good, but they stopped doing it. But I still think some of the old episodes are helpful. It's called Job Logs. I used to
Okay.
love that podcast. And then there's another one it's more finance focused, but they do talk about careers a little bit here and then. And it's called Brown Ambition. I do like that one as well. I'm trying to think if there's any.
Any
I mean, there's
websites you follow, or any people who you think are really great on LinkedIn that
yeah, I was gonna
folks should
say
follow?
there's people on LinkedIn who I think are phenomenal. Like, will drop so many gems. It depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So there's one woman, Cassie. I'll send you her
Yeah.
LinkedIn
We'll
profile.
put it in the show notes.
Yes, she's also based in Seattle, but she works for a big tech company, and so she see in HR, so she sees resumes all the time, and she can just look at a resume and be like, "No, you need to put a number here, you need to put a number here and here." She's fantastic. There's another woman called Tinu. She calls herself the luxury career strategist. So she's really into getting people the six-figure jobs, but like not just stopping at that. It's like, okay, well, you deserve, a sign on bonus. You deserve like a cell phone stipend, things like that. I think she's phenomenal. And then there's also another woman. Her name is Lisa. I think her last name is Ombre. I can send you her information as well. But she does a
Yeah.
lot of psychology in terms of your job searching. So there's just so many people. I say all the time, like, you get on LinkedIn, if you're looking for a job, follow some of these people, you will be good to go.
All right. So any last words or advice that you would share with my listeners?
Yes. One more thing I think that people sleep on in terms of their LinkedIn profile is getting recommendations. I have had I have had
Yes.
many
Yes.
people I have had many people reach out to me who found me on LinkedIn, and they're like, "Oh, like I saw your profile and then I read your recommendations." I was like, "Oh, okay." So when people started saying that more, I was like, "Okay, I really need to pay attention to my recommendations, and they're so easy for you to get." Anybody who is listening to this podcast, if there's one thing you do, I challenge you. Of course, you're going to update your profile photo. Okay, two things. Two things you must do. Please update your profile photo, and please just send 3 recommendation requests to 3 people you have previously worked with who know your work well. Sometimes you can even write it for them. If that's what it takes for them to post it on your profile, please do so. But most of the time, I found that when you work with people who really enjoyed working with you, they are more than happy to write a recommendation for you. And the great thing about it is that when they do write the recommendation, you can review it before you approve it to add it to your profile. So please, 3 people who have seen your work and can give you a glowing review, please do that.
Let's just drill down just a little bit deeper on that. And maybe I'm asking for a friend. So let's say you've worked with some folks, you send out a message after that engagement is done and you send it through LinkedIn, because that's how you do it. You go to LinkedIn and there's a way to send a referral request or reference request. And then what do you say in the message? It was great. It was great working with you. References are really important to growing my business and brand. I'd appreciate it if you'd review me. I mean, how does that exactly go?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can keep it very sweet and simple. You can just say, "Hi, thank you so much. I really enjoyed working with you on this project. I really love it if you could leave me a recommendation," and just talk about the experience we had working together. You can just leave it at that. And I found, like I mentioned, when people like working with you, they are more than happy to give you a glowing review. But I've also found that people who are not active on LinkedIn, they may not see that recommendation request. It may take them 2-3 weeks. If this is somebody who you have a good relationship with, feel free to send them an email or a text message and say, hey, I sent you this recommendation request on LinkedIn. If you could just, complete it in the next week or two, that would be really helpful.
This has been great. So much great advice, really actionable advice that you can just put in action. And I'm going to get off this recording, and I think I'm going to start. Some listeners, you might find a request in your inbox for a recommendation.
Good.
And you will see my new banner image before the end of the summer here. Yeah. Thank you, Portia Obeng. This is great. And I will link to all your socials and your website in the show notes, which folks can find at conversationsoncareers.com. Thank you for having this conversation on careers and professional life.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was great.
Portia offered some fantastic advice on updating your LinkedIn profile and much more. We shared a number of resources during the conversation, and you can find them all at conversationsoncareers.com. Thank you for listening to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or classmate. Help others find the show by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Conversations on Careers and Professional Life is produced by me, Gregory Heller, with support from the Foster School of Business, Office of MBA Career Management. Learn more about the show, find show notes and past episodes, and get in touch with me at conversationsoncareers.com.